This is James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Welcome to a more civilized podcast. This is the podcast you're looking for. You may not go about your business. Stay here, listen, and then move along.
Welcome, guys, to the first of a first kind of little short episode that we have. Because I'm a dad and I love dad jokes and puns. When we have little shorter episodes that are not going to have enough material to do like a full episode, we're going to call them Nerf Nuggets, which is a canonical food item in the Star Wars universe. They're just little teeny chicken nuggets, only made of Nerfs.
After Nerfs are herded, they become nuggets.
All right, by scruffy herders.
Yes.
Anyway, so I'm Kyler.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ross.
And we went to FanX this year, 2018.
Yes, which would be formerly the Salt Lake Comic-Con.
Right.
Before San Diego Comic-Con got really uppity about the fact that someone else was as popular as them.
Well, that's a different discussion.
Yes.
But yeah, we went to FanX, and Ross has a pretty cool piece of news. Normally, these Nerf Nuggets aren't going to have news, but this just fits so well with what we wanted to talk about, we decided to throw it in here anyway.
Yes, so, I think, what day was it that this all happened?
That was Thursday.
Thursday?
Yeah.
So the FanX happens over Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And the two very, very gung-ho Clone Wars fans took the opportunity to commemorate, or, wait, no, that's not the right word.
Celebrate? Commiserate. Conjugate.
No,
Oh.
They didn't do that. They decided to actually hold their wedding.
Chris is face palming.
They decided to actually hold their wedding at the Comic-Con. Or at the FanX, sorry. Don't sue me, San Diego.
No, you just said Comic-Con. You can say just Comic-Con. They can't prove you were referring to Salt Lake. Yeah. They then changed their mind and had it at FanX.
Yeah,
That's right.
Exactly.
They then went to Salt Lake and went to FanX. Now, they went dressed as their favorite characters, which are Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine, I forget her last name.
Kreitz.
Satine Kreitz, who was the Mandalorian queen.
Duchess of Mandalore.
Yeah, person. Now, the reason why this is so special is because the two actors that voiced those characters in the show were attending.
Yeah, they heard about that they, were big fans, that they were getting married there, and they offered to come last minute to the con and officiate.
I didn't know they offered.
Yeah.
That's even more awesome.
They got wind of it. And
according to that article I read, they found out about it through Facebook event, and offered and said, "Hey, we can officiate."
Yeah.
Yeah, can we come? So within under a week before FanX started, they were quickly added, as guests and whatever.
Anna Graves and James Arnold Taylor.
Right.
Yeah.
Which by now you will be familiar with.
Yes.
Very familiar with, because while we were there, we got them to do our intro and outro.
And we will talk about that in a minute. But so this couple got married, and they were really cool. I got to talk with them on Friday. That's actually how I found out that Anna Graves and James Arnold Taylor were even in attendance, because I had looked about a week before and they weren't there. They weren't listed. And so I was like, I saw them in their Obi-Wan and Satine cosplay, and I was like, dang, you guys look amazing. Let me take a picture. This is really cool.
Particularly Satine's cosplay. That was very impressive stuff.
Just way impressive. Yeah.
Yes. Personally made by Jess that was wearing it. She did a great job.
And so then I'm like, man, I just want to give you guys a hug. This looks so awesome. They're like, yeah, we just got married. Oh, by the way, we got married by Obi-Wan and Satine. They're over there doing autographs. And I was like, say what now? So then I ran over and got to meet them. But the other fun fact, which is just fun, probably only for us, but Chris, his wife, here on the podcast, Chris, is named Jess. And the couple who got married as Obi-Wan and Satine are named Chris and Jess. So I thought that was kind of a fun little hey, we're like twins now. We love you guys. So congratulations, Chris and Jess. It was really great to talk to you guys. Hopefully you listen to this. He's apparently from Utah, so maybe they actually will listen to this. Who knows?
We can probably track him down and force him to listen to it.
I plan on it. At Lightsaber Point, you will listen to this podcast.
If they ever claim that we forced them to watch this, we totally did not. Let me just get that on record now.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, man. So now on to the body of this very short Nerf Nugget here. what did we do at FanX, guys? What did you guys get to go do?
Walked around a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sore for the whole next day. My shoes are terrible, which is what I'm going to blame, other than my lack of, normal walking.
Did you end up getting anything fun?
I did, actually. It's around here somewhere. We're also going to talk a little bit about a panel that we went to in just a minute. But I picked up a book by one of the panelists who... I guess he owns the company that restores a lot of old costumes, and that's where a lot of the old props and costumes from Star Wars went. And so he puts on this podcast about, these people, how it was actually
Podcast
produced.
or panel?
I'm sorry, panel.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
We're on the podcast
Yeah.
about the panel. Yeah. Anyway.
So that was pretty cool.
I picked up their book, super interesting, and it's even interesting that they got all the way through Solo. So, like, everything that's been released is in that book currently.
Yeah. Which was pretty impressive. So I was working actually at FanX, so I got to be there for all 3 days and got to go through a little bit more of a Star Wars themed list than these two guys. On Friday, I think it was Friday. Yeah, Friday. In the morning I went and I got to meet Freddie Prinze Jr., who voices Kanan Jarrus, also known as Caleb Doom from Star Wars Rebels, the cowboy Jedi. He was pretty cool. I should have been more prepared. As I mentioned, we are adequate podcasters, so I don't actually have my texts that were my notes to these guys about these two guys and what we said. But Freddie Prinze Jr. was really cool. I got an autograph from him. And of course, I've sent so many texts to you guys, they're not there anymore. But I asked him what his favorite episode, or favorite scene, or favorite part of Star Wars Rebels was. He said that his favorite...
Stuff that you'll hear when we play the interview for you.
No, not Freddie.
Not Freddie Prinze
That's
Jr.
right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Freddie, face of the 90s Prinze Jr.
Yeah.
Did not get recorded.
Freddie makes my wife all flustered and flushed to look at. Junior, Prince
He's
Jr.
an attractive man.
He is. He's stupidly handsome. But no, he said his favorite scene to film in all of the 4 seasons of Rebels was the training scenes with, I can't remember the actress's name, but with Sabine, the Mandalorian in Rebels. The training montages, he's teaching her how to use a lightsaber and making her a little bit more of a refined warrior so that she can go to lead her people. He said that was really, really fun. Then I asked him how it was to record with his wife, who is Buffy. What's her real name?
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. There we go. I can't remember. Sarah Michelle Gellar voices one of the Inquisitorius members, the 7th sister in Star Wars Rebels. And she, obviously married to Freddie Prinze Jr. They have a lot of scenes together where they're fighting and things. So I asked him how it was, to record with your wife, record some scenes with your wife. That's pretty cool, right? And he said, actually, funny story, I didn't actually get to record any scenes with my wife because he was having neck surgery, or spine surgery, like in his neck area, apparently. So he was laid up, recovering from surgery / under surgery, and his wife had to read his lines for the rest of the cast to react to. And so they just, matched his lines up later.
Him later.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, well, that's kind of funny and also a little bit sad. Anyway, but kind of a cool story. Then later that day, later on Friday, is when I met Chris and Jess, who had got married as Obi-Wan and Satine, who told me that Obi-Wan and Satine were there. So I went over to where they were doing autographs, and there was nobody there. It was a miracle. Like, the seas parted, the crowds of people parted. And
it's probably the only time I ever saw them without someone there.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. And so, went up, talked to them. They were both super cool. Honestly, James Arnold Taylor and Anna Graves, legitimately cool people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Super down to earth.
Very gracious.
Gracious. I think I used that word about 4 times on Twitter out as I was like, oh my gosh, Matt, you guys are just so cool. Unbelievably cool. And talked to them and got autographs from them as well. Love those 2 characters. Those are honestly some of the best characters in Clone Wars, particularly Satine. She's such a cool character. Man, I can't wait for Chris to get there in the Clone Wars and
working
see
on
them.
it.
And I told them that my 2 fellow podcast co-hosts would be coming on Saturday, the next day, and that I'd like to introduce them. They were like, yeah, please bring it over. Bring him over, and we'd love to meet him. So then we did. On Saturday, Chris had, because he's an awesome author, won a pass to FanX, and Ross and his wife took the plunge and just bought it like a bunch of peasants. And
yeah, I didn't have anything I was showing this time.
And so then we all went over there and got to meet them and talk with them, and they were unbelievably cool. They, as you know by now, recorded our intro and outro for us, which was beyond cool. I mean, they didn't have to do that. So generous.
Also, we did not write all of that for James. He just riffed on that. That was all him.
Yeah, we had a pretty short one-sentence thing.
A lot more like Anna's.
And he just went off and
we loved
just
it.
Kept going. And then at the end, he kind of looked at us, was like, "Is that good?" And we're like, well, "That's more than we could have asked for."
Yeah.
So
and then we asked for more.
And then we asked for more. Yeah, we promptly asked them for an interview, which they so graciously agreed to do. And again, their coolness and humbleness and graciousness cannot be overstated.
Also, thank you everyone who was waiting in line behind us.
Yeah. So we'll actually be playing that interview as sort of the last thing we do for this Nerf Nugget. So we'll talk a little bit more about our experiences. Then we'll let you guys hear what we asked them and see how cool they were. Saturday afternoon, Ross and I went to the Canteen Archaeology panel, the Cantina Archaeology panel, with Pablo Hidalgo and Tom Spina. Tom Spina is the one of the consultants, that's the word I'm looking for. Yes. Consultants on the book that Ross mentioned earlier that talks about kind of the props and the creatures and things like that.
Which is called The Movie-Making Magic of Star Wars, Creatures and Aliens.
Highly recommend it. Yeah. It's really, if you are a Star Wars fan at all, like really, this book ought to be on your shelf. It's really quite amazing.
That is by Mark Salisbury, so that he gets some nice credit. He worked. They were his consultants for this and put together a fantastic tome.
Lots of really cool behind-the-scenes stuff, and I'm going to thoroughly plunder this book for information when we do a Monsters episode, a Monsters and Creatures episode.
I've already been into it today.
Yeah, exactly.
For other episodes we're recording.
You listeners will hear some of this information, and I will fully give these guys props when that episode happens.
And just to give you kind of an idea of what's really going on here, I mean, it's tough to even describe because you're flipping through the book and like they have little pop-ups, so you can see like the wireframes behind the 3D characters, or see all the concept art behind.
Yeah, and they have fold-outs for different things. So like, there's one in particular that I was hoping they would have, and they did have it, and I'm so excited. But talking about Chewbacca, the different phases of sort of Chewbacca's development before we get to what he is, where they had some rough sketches of like, oh, well, we like this, oh, we want this a little bit more like this, and so there's like a 4 or 5 panel sort of pull-out that you can see, kind of accordion style, of the different phases.
Is it a Chewbacca centerfold?
It is, it's a Chewbacca centerfold. Just what we always wanted. And that's really cool.
So scandalous to see him walking around without his little bandolier.
Yeah, so I've got a little. Yeah, he feels so naked. So I've got a little tidbit about Chewie when we do our Monsters and Creatures episode. But yeah, so that was really cool. And you guys want to, or Ross, do you want to add anything about
I met them briefly.
Cantina,
really nice guys.
About
panel?
the panel. Yeah, actually, it was super interesting to see kind of how. I didn't realize how many people were redone in, or like reused. Like you'd have one person putting on,
one
suits.
actor played multiple aliens, and so they would reshoot, from this angle and that angle, and just now you change, Chris, you're going to change costumes, and I'm going to stand over here for this shot. It was,
and then also how many things
there was that one guy with like the striped sneakers. He was in like every single shot. He was like 10 aliens. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, he was a bunch of people. But also, like, even that guy in particular, because he played what they called Spaceman, Now I forget the name of the species. The same one that Cad Bane is.
A Duros.
The Duros. But he's in the really NASA-looking spacesuit.
Yeah.
Because they've reused that spacesuit from a couple different other movies. There were several things that were just pulled from other movies that they just brought in because they were lying around.
And even like other parts of aliens from Star Wars, like apparently Greedo has a Duros hands instead of Rhodian hands at one point. Because
they had to reshoot some scenes
and
they
couldn't find the hands or whatever, so they're like, put these on, it's close enough, nobody will know. Little did they know.
They did not know what was coming.
And I thought it was interesting too. 2 actors played Greedo. I didn't know that. One was a female, one was a male. And so just depending on the shot, like kind of if they needed like a more slight frame to fit Greedo in the shot better than the lady played him. And yeah, so
it's really awesome seeing Greedo with a pair of pink high heels.
It sure is.
That was fun. But also, I couldn't really believe how kind of cobbled together some things were.
Yeah,
because like the Ithorian. They showed a picture. So in the cantina, you see him from the character's left.
You might know him as the Hammerhead.
Yeah,
that's how I knew him as a little kid.
Right.
But his species is Ithorian.
So in the shot when he's sitting in the booth, you see the character from the character's left. But like they had a shot of him from the right side, and you can see like the open foam. You can see
it's all cracked. It's not even painted on the back side.
Awesome.
So the Hammerhead, he's big and brown, and his head kind of curves up like a bent spoon or something like that. So that's who we're talking about there. But they showed the pictures that were taken like just production photos, from different angles, and you can see just like the foam totally unpainted, but with the right angle and the right lighting, you can't even tell. And that was you said it cobbled together, and that is, I think, a really good descriptor for the cantina scene. But it's amazing that even with how cobbled together it was, how good it looks in the final product. Like that cantina scene looks really, really good. And then it was really cool to kind of have, the curtains pulled back a little bit and be like, oh, well, here's this little thing. Here's the flashlight sticking out of the back of this guy's head.
Oh, that was the other thing. One, I think they called him T-Head. Apparently, to get the eyes to go a little bit, they just literally stuck a flashlight in the back
T-Head
of
is the guy who has a head vaguely shaped like a T, hence the creatively named T-Head. And he's the guy in the cantina who, it's just a cantina shot, and then his head just pops up vertically, and then looks around for a second.
Yeah.
And apparently, he's got little glowing, sparkly yellow eyes. And to get the eyes lit up, they just shoved a flashlight in the back of his head and hoped nobody would notice.
Well, but that was the thing, is that you didn't think that you would be able to see it, but it turns out he turns his head just far enough.
You can see the back of the flashlight hanging out of his head, which is kind of funny.
And see, I'd always noticed the little tiny bat creature that is like, whistles for a drink and the guy hands it to him. You can see through his head. Through the eyes. Yeah.
I have never noticed that.
See, but that's the thing, though, is it just happens the darkness of the eye, where it is actually showing the inside of the mask, makes it look like the light portion, which is what you can actually see through, looks like a pupil. Or looks like the iris, right?
Interesting.
So, but no, you can actually see how...
So kind of like Vader's helmet then, the eyes where they're a little bit red sometimes. You can see it's totally sunglasses.
Yeah.
Basically.
So, anyway.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. How
really cool. Yeah. And then also Saturday, after we got done with our interview with Satine and Obi-Wan, I took these 2 guys to meet Tom Spina, who worked on, or who's consulted on this book, and introduced them to him, and we had a good chat with him as well. Really cool guy. So, without further ado,
I don't think you mentioned Ian.
Yeah. How did I forget that? Yeah, so it's because I was going in chronological order, and then we just went way into the weeds. Yeah, so Saturday morning, and again, advantage of being vendor is that for popular people like the Emperor, whose lines are basically an eternity long all day, because I'm a vendor, I can get in the hall early, so I actually was the first person in line to meet the Emperor and get an autograph from him, and I chose... it was a tough choice to choose which picture to have him sign, because he's the Emperor, so they're all really good. I'm like, do I do like evil, manipulative, scheming Chancellor Palpatine, who I love? Or do I do like full-on evil Emperor, I'm in charge, who I love from my childhood? I ultimately went with that one, because I'm like, when you say the Emperor, that's what you're thinking of. White, pallid skin, wrinkly, gross face, yellow eyes, that's who you're thinking of. So I went with that one just because it seemed the most classic. And he's kind of doing his little, like, laughing smirk, like, haha, I'm totally in charge and you rebels are just gonna die kind of a look. So Ian McDiarmid takes the picture, and he gets my name on there, or he takes the picture, looks at it, and he goes, "Oh, I'm really happy in this picture. I must have killed 100 people that morning." And then proceeds to sign it and things. I asked him as well what his favorite scene from Return of the Jedi was, and he said that he enjoyed all of them quite a bit. Even the scenes he wasn't in, he quite enjoyed them. But his favorite scene is his final scene with Luke and Vader, where he's electrocuting Luke, and just that whole confrontation in that last scene. He said he really, really loves it. He told me that he just poured as much contempt as possible into that performance and thought that would probably be good, and it certainly was. Because you feel it. You feel that he has nothing, not even disrespect, just contempt. Like, you don't even matter, Luke. If you're not going to join me, I'm going to snuff you out like a bug. He really exudes that. And so good job, Ian. Yes. And anyway, it was a really cool experience. Yeah. So. Wish I could have gotten to meet more of them. But yeah. What are you going to do? Next time. It's true. Next time. Yeah. So I think. Yes. I think we're ready for the interview now. So please, listeners, go ahead and enjoy this interview with James Arnold Taylor, voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Moralo Eval, and a bunch of other people from Clone Wars. And Anna Graves, who is Duchess Satine, and Sugi, I found out, a bounty hunter from Clone Wars, as well as, I can't remember her name, but the Mon Calamari senator from Clone Wars as well. So anyway, enjoy this interview, guys. So, I guess, unrelated to Star Wars, here's a nerd question for you.
Oh, yes.
Oh. As I lean on the table and knock it over. I know. We're so adequate. Do you guys know, and are you fans of Critical Role?
I certainly know of it, yeah.
Yeah, but I haven't started watching it yet, and I need to. Yeah.
Okay, so we need to harass them so that you guys can get on and play, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically we won't watch until we're on it.
Fair enough.
The problem is my knowledge of D&D. I don't.
That's okay.
Is that okay?
When you start as a player, you're fine.
Okay, I would be such a novice. I feel like I just get beat up.
Through D&D. It's not that.
Okay, good.
I'm really good at taking guests that haven't played before and teaching them, even as they play. So.
I was just in a session with Matt, and I always want to ask him, but then I don't. I just go, I'm just going to wait until he asks me. And he never asks me, so,
Okay, we'll put his
I have watched it 4 times, and I love it when I watch it. So, and now that they have, I don't know, it feels like they're having more and more guests on the show, too, which is awesome. So, I would be totally down with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to re-ask you some of the questions that I asked yesterday. Because now we're recording. So what was like a favorite moment of yours from the Clone Wars? To record, to watch, to, whatever. What are your favorite moments?
Favorite moments of the Clone Wars? Well, Duchess, what are your favorite moments?
I mean, the Mandalorian arc is really hard to beat for me. So that was my most beautiful experience coming into Star Wars and creating the character of Duchess Satine and having everything happen with the Mandalorians and Death Watch and Obi-Wan and introducing that relationship to the audience was so exciting.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it because she's right here, but it was mine as well. And it is really crucial, I think, that we got to do something that nobody else really got to do with Star Wars, and that George Lucas came up with these wonderful ideas and entrusted us with that. So I think that was really pretty awesome.
And I'm also not saying this just because you're here and I'm in front of you, but honestly, the Mandalorian arcs, all of them, are some of my favorite arcs. We actually have an episode coming up where we're going to be talking about kind of ranking our favorite Clone Wars arcs, and yeah, Mandalore is right up there. It's so good.
Yep. Just as soon as I'm done watching it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and then the introduction of Darth Maul, throwing that into the mix along with Death Watch, just making things more dramatic and more suspenseful and more dangerous.
I don't even want to talk about it.
I don't even want to talk about it either.
Now, you shared a fun story about the whole being told that you're hysterical or whatever.
Right.
Do you want to tell that again?
Sure. I said that my favorite scene in the Mandalore plot, which is the 3rd episode in the Mandalorian arc, is where Obi-Wan so sweetly is coming up behind her and just saying, hey, Duchess, Satine, are you okay? I'm doing my Obi-Wan now.
I like
that. And then she basically, because he says don't get hysterical, she says hysterical. I think more people should get hysterical. And it goes to how frustrated she is at that point because she's not getting help from the Jedi, she's not getting help from the Republic, and no one is listening to her. So she gives this great monologue where she is just ripping into Obi-Wan and telling him exactly how she feels and what is happening. And of course, the moment she storms off, an assassination attempt happens, and it gets more dramatic. But that was probably one of my all-time favorite yelling matches, I would say, that we had, because we really challenged each other in that show.
James, same question. Did you have a particularly favorite moment? Yeah, thank you.
Daniel Logan. Yeah, we're getting interrupted by Daniel Logan.
Daniel. I love you, Daniel.
The moments, I do love, again, it's not with the Duchess, but it's about the Duchess. When Anakin says, I'll go over here and you go over and take care of your girlfriend. I say, right. No, wait, Anakin, she's not my girlfriend. I just love that because it was a very human moment.
Yes.
And but I also love at the end the beard line,
right,
about keeping the beard. It covers your face, that she wishes he didn't have it. I just thought it was just such a neat way to kind of go into those lives that we know so well, and they did something that we didn't know. So I thought that was cool.
So, what was the discussion around giving Obi-Wan something of a romance plot? Because he's been such a known and kind of stable character to be kind of the ideal of the Jedi, but now all of a sudden we kind of have this new aspect that we didn't even have a hint of before. What was the discussion around that?
I think you'd have to ask George Lucas. It really was just him, deciding. And the fun thing for Dave Filoni was he would have these meetings with George, and George would say, oh, well, we're going to do this. And then he'd go, oh, okay, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do it this way. And then, so, he really was at the knee of the master for so many years. And then he would come to all of us and do it. And, so it's just really one of those things that is only from the mind of George Lucas. So you can't explain it otherwise. But
Yeah, and there's no storyteller like George Lucas. People give the prequels a bunch of crap, but we just did our prequel episode, and even though it's there are flaws in it and stuff, there are in any movie, but the story, though, being told in the prequels is terrific.
Yes.
It's a fantastic story, and then I love that the Clone Wars expands on that.
Yeah, that was the benefit of it all, is that we really did get to tell stories that nobody got to see before. So,
all right, one quick question, then we'll get out of everybody's way. Do you guys have a funny, I flubbed a line or totally botched something, kind of a funny behind-the-scenes story people might find entertaining?
We're just so perfect. We don't make mistakes.
Yeah, no, take one, man. Take one. I'm going to take one person.
Dave Filoni calls me One Take Taylor. That's all I'm saying.
Not that I can remember. I'm sure that there were many. I mean, it happens, but...
Anna is, I'll toot her horn for her. She is an expert with accents and voices and sounds and things, and she just hears them and then she's able to produce them. And she didn't mess up. But it was great because it always raises your game. So, when you're having a conversation with somebody and you're reading along and you're doing this voice and playing this character, you don't want to mess up. And she always made me that much better, too.
Well, and when you only have 2 or 3 takes to do a scene over and over again, you really want to do your best on every single take. You don't want the first take to be the best or the last take to be the best. You want all 3 to be good, solid, completely different choices.
Yeah.
So in each scene have, these variations that make it so hard for the animators and the director to choose from. And that's my goal.
Good problem. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Alrighty, guys. We hope you enjoyed that as much as we did, although I doubt it, because it was pretty cool. Next episode, we're going to be discussing Rogue One, finally, so that Chris does not explode.
If we discussed The Last Jedi, and I said, well, if I'm going to have to listen to Kyler complain about The Last Jedi, I'm going to make y'all listen to me complain about Rogue One.
His exact words were more along the line of, okay, we're going to do this Last Jedi episode, but when are we doing Rogue One? No, that's way too far down the line.
Yeah,
move it up. So we moved it up. So that's what we're going to do next week. And it was good. Despite what Chris says, he's going to do his best to convince all of us otherwise. With that, follow us on Twitter @MoreCivilized, and join our Facebook group, A More Civilized Podcast.
Also, our website, amorecivilizedpodcast.podbean.com. You can also follow myself at Mr. _R on on Twitter.
And you can find me on Twitter at Itinerant Avenger.
Why do we choose names so hard to say?
Yeah, I never have to say it out loud. It spells really easy. It's just 2 words, no underscores, no nothing. But yeah, man, saying it out loud is a little tricky.
Alrighty. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
Always.
I'm Anna Graves, and thank you for listening to a more civilized podcast.
Check that out.
Nerf Nugget.
Okay.
Do we want to do our May the Force be with you ending?
Yeah, now we're going to record the outro.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'll play that.
I should probably read my notes before we do that.
I have notes.
I'm sorry. My bad.
Okay, we ready?